As the Iran-Israel war intensifies, June 23rd marked a perilous new chapter in the conflict, one that signaled the broadening of the battlefield beyond Israeli territory. In a dramatic and unprecedented escalation, Iran launched a coordinated series of ballistic and hypersonic missile attacks targeting multiple American military installations across the Gulf region, including key U.S. air bases in Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. The missile assault, which began just before dawn, was reportedly carried out by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, under the direct orders of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, according to Iranian state media. The attack was framed as a legitimate response to American complicity in Zionist crimes following the joint U.S. Israeli airstrike that targeted a sensitive Iranian nuclear research site near Natanz days earlier. The scale, precision, and technological sophistication of the attack mark one of the most direct confrontations between Iran and the United States since the 2020 assassination of General Qassem Soleimani. Eyewitnesses and military personnel stationed at Al Udeid airbase in Qatar, the largest American military facility in the Middle East, reported multiple loud explosions as ballistic missiles struck within and near the perimeter of the installation. The initial barrage was followed by at least 5 hypersonic missile launches that bypassed traditional radar defenses and slammed into what appeared to be fuel depots and satellite communication hubs. Similar strikes were reported at Al Dhafra Air Base in the UAE, where 2 Patriot defense batteries intercepted several incoming projectiles, but failed to prevent structural damage to parts of the airfield and runway infrastructure. In Bahrain, the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet experienced nearby detonations, though the Pentagon has yet to confirm whether the base itself was directly hit. Preliminary reports suggest dozens of U.S. personnel have been injured, with several critically wounded, though full casualty figures are still being assessed. Iran's use of advanced hypersonic weaponry in this strike is particularly alarming. The Fateh-class missiles, which Tehran unveiled less than a year ago, possess maneuvering capabilities during flight and can travel at speeds over Mach 5, rendering traditional missile defense systems like THAAD and Patriot largely ineffective. Military analysts believe this attack demonstrates that Iran has not only succeeded in operationalizing this next-generation technology, but also possesses accurate targeting capabilities capable of threatening U.S. strategic interests in the region. Tehran's message is clear. The Islamic Republic is willing to take the war beyond Israeli borders and directly confront American military forces if necessary. The international response has been swift and alarmed. President Joe Biden, speaking from the White House, condemned the attack in the strongest terms, calling it a direct act of aggression against the United States and our forces in the region. The U.S. has since moved to carrier strike groups into the Persian Gulf and placed its regional forces on the highest alert. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin confirmed that retaliatory options are being reviewed, including both cyber and kinetic responses. At the same time, urgent diplomatic communication channels have been opened with NATO allies and Gulf partners. As fears of a full-scale regional war with the U.S. and Iran at the center grow rapidly, Gulf countries have expressed deep concern over being dragged into a war they did not choose. Qatar condemned the missile strikes, calling for immediate de-escalation, but also criticized what it described as reckless provocations by all parties. The UAE and Saudi Arabia, while condemning Iranian aggression, are also pressuring Washington and Tel Aviv to show restraint and avoid plunging the region into uncontrollable chaos. Oil prices have surged overnight due to fears of disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, through which nearly 20% of the world's petroleum supply flows. Energy analysts warn that any sustained conflict involving Iran and the U.S. could push global oil prices past $150 per barrel, with crippling effects on the world economy. On the battlefield, the Pentagon has now authorized the activation of contingency plans for potential evacuation of non-essential personnel from bases in the Gulf. Several commercial airports in Qatar and the UAE were temporarily shut down in the immediate aftermath of the strikes. American drones and reconnaissance aircraft have been deployed across the Gulf and southern Iran to assess further threats, and reports suggest that Israel and the U.S. may now be considering joint retaliatory operations against Iranian launch facilities deep within its territory. This escalation raises the terrifying specter of a broader, multi-front war spanning not only Israel and Iran, but potentially engulfing American forces across the Middle East. Hezbollah has already launched a new wave of rocket attacks from Lebanon, and Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria are reportedly mobilizing. The decision to strike U.S. bases marks a calculated gamble by Tehran declaration that the Islamic Republic will not be cornered, and that it considers the U.S. as culpable as Israel in this widening conflict. As June 23rd ends, the world watches nervously, bracing for what could become a historic and devastating confrontation in a region already soaked in decades of instability. The fuse has been lit, and unless immediate diplomatic efforts succeed, the consequences could be catastrophic on a global scale.